After I married Caleb, he spoiled me like a queen, envied by everyone. If I wanted it, he wouldn't hesitate to do anything, even pluck a star from the sky and give it to me. But that day, my water broke, and I struggled to find my phone to call 120 emergency services. I accidentally hung up on a call from Caleb's childhood friend, Faye, who was calling from the airport. Caleb hit me for the first time, staring at me like a demon. "I love you so much. I'd even cut out my heart and give it to you. Why don't you believe me? Faye is sensitive. I don't want her to be embarrassed because of your selfish jealousy." With that, he grabbed my arm, shoved me into the trunk of the car, and said coldly, "Calm down and reflect on your actions. Once I pick up Faye, apologize to her, and then I'll let you out." I huddled in the cramped trunk, the intense contractions causing me to nearly faint. I used all my strength to bang and call for help, but Caleb completely ignored me and dialed the phone again. "Faye, I'm coming to pick you up now. Don't wander off, wait for me." The car sped onto the highway, the occasional sudden stops causing me to uncontrollably crash into the trunk door. I protected my pregnant belly, trying to use other parts of my body to withstand the violent impacts. Amniotic fluid had already filled the entire trunk, and blood even started to flow. Caleb, take me to the hospital. I'm bleeding." I cried out weakly, cold sweat pouring out. But Caleb didn't even give me a glance, just kept accelerating. "Faye landed half an hour ago. If it weren't for you hanging up the phone, would she have had to wait so long for me at the airport? You still dare to ask me to take you to the hospital first." I painfully grabbed the back of the seat, propping up half my body, begging him to look at me. "Caleb, please, I'm going to die. If we don't go to the hospital now, the baby and I will die." Caleb slammed on the brakes, stopping the car on the emergency lane. Ignoring the speeding traffic on the highway, he got out of the car, went to the back and opened the trunk. As soon as the door opened, a foul stench assaulted his senses and Caleb frowned tightly, covering his nose. "How can you be so disgusting? You're such an adult. Can't you even control your bodily functions?" My face was covered in tears and sweat, and I crawled pathetically towards Caleb and begged him softly, "Caleb, I'm about to give birth. It really hurts. Can you please take me to the hospital?" Caleb looked down at me, coldly scoffing. "You're about to give birth and still have the strength to be jealous and hang up on Faye's call? You seem fine to me. What are you pretending to be so pitiful for?" Seeing that he was about to close the trunk again, I desperately grabbed the hem of his clothes, praying to grasp the last bit of hope. "I really didn't do it on purpose, please. It's your baby inside me. You can't treat me like this." Hearing my words, Caleb hesitated for a moment, but then the phone rang again. "Caleb, why haven't you come yet? I've been standing in the wind for so long, I'm about to catch a cold." It was Faye calling. "I'm sorry, Faye. 10 more minutes. I'll be there soon. Find a warm place to wait. Don't catch a cold." With that, Caleb ignored my pleas, slammed the trunk shut, and sped off towards the airport. Pain and fear bound me, gradually suffocating me. Soon after, the car stopped, Caleb got out, and the door opened and slammed shut again. He must have arrived at the airport. After Caleb picks up Faye, he should take me to the hospital, right? As long as I can make it through this period and hold on until I get to the hospital, the baby and I can survive. I secretly cheered myself on, completely unaware that a large pool of blood had already spread beneath me. After an unknown amount of time, a sound of footsteps gradually approached, and the car door opened. I opened my mouth to call out to Caleb, but suddenly realized that I was so weak that I didn't even have the strength to speak. I could only reach out my hand, desperately grabbing forward, but Caleb didn't see it. He was just back in the car to get something, a large bouquet of pure white roses. He said they represented the 25 years of pure friendship between him and Faye. After taking the flowers, he slammed the car door shut and locked the car without looking back. "Caleb, you look even better than before, even after 2 years. Your wife must take good care of you. Don't even mention it. That woman Sophie doesn't know how to take care of anyone. Unlike you, Faye, you've understood me since we were little. Do you remember when we were kids?" The voices of the two gradually faded away, and I felt my consciousness begin to blur. In a daze, the moments I shared with Caleb flashed before my eyes like a revolving lantern. He put a ring on my finger, vowing to love me for all eternity. On my birthday, he held a handmade cake, his eyes solely focused on me. When we received the ultrasound report, his eyes reddened as he touched my belly, promising to never let his wife and child suffer. But when I accidentally hung up the phone, he slapped me across the face like a demon. You dare hang up Faye's phone? I've spoiled you too much, so much that you don't even know who you are anymore. I felt another small life slipping away inside me, and everything around me began to spin and blur. I wanted to reach out and touch the once vibrant bulge one last time, but my fingers just twitched weakly. Endless darkness gathered from all directions, like a gentle shroud, yet also like a cold tomb. At this moment, the car door opened again, and Caleb got in, with Faye in the passenger seat. Instinctively, I wanted to touch Caleb, but I found that I couldn't reach him no matter what. I coexisted with them in the same space, but like a ghost, I could only watch, without a physical body. After getting into the car, Faye frowned and waved her hand under her nose. What's that smell? It's musty and stinky. Caleb, how long has it been since you washed this car? Caleb seemed embarrassed by her words, and dismissed it with a few words. Oh, a mouse probably died in the engine compartment a few days ago. The smell hasn't dissipated yet. Faye nodded and didn't complain anymore, but skillfully flipped open the vanity mirror, and began to fix her hair. Caleb watched her as he drove, and couldn't help but laugh. You're still the same, you don't get car sick in my car. Faye smiled sweetly and playfully patted Caleb's hand on the gear shift. Yeah, it has to be Caleb. These past years abroad, every time I was in a car, I thought if Caleb was driving, it would be much smoother. How long has it been since we last saw each other? The two of them chatted back and forth, completely unaware of the presence of another person in the car. I heard your wife is pregnant. Has she given birth? Boy or girl? Faye suddenly asked. Mentioning me, Caleb glanced at the rearview mirror and snorted coldly. I don't know, she's still arguing with me today, just because I said I was coming to the airport to pick you up. Who spoiled her so much? She's still lying in the trunk right now, no need to bother with her. Hearing Caleb say that, Faye was surprised and covered her mouth, straightening up to look back. There's no one there, and besides, your wife is pregnant. It's not right to lock her in the trunk. Sophie. Caleb called out a few times, and when no one answered, he became angry instead. He pushed Faye, who was still looking back into her seat, and glared at the rearview mirror, as if I could see it. Don't mind her. If she wants to play dead, let her. It would be better if she really died. I'm waiting to collect her body. I felt a burning sensation in my eyes, but no tears would fall. Faye looked at Caleb with some hesitation, pursed her lips, but didn't say anything. The car continued to drive forward and stopped in front of a French restaurant. This restaurant was where Caleb proposed to me. He said he had done a lot of research, and at 10 o'clock at night, the most beautiful night view could be seen from the window seat. I was very touched and unhesitatingly extended my finger to put on that heavy shackle. Before getting out of the car, Faye looked back at the trunk again, dark and pitch black. Caleb, is your wife really in the trunk? Do you want to take a look? Caleb grabbed her hand and impatiently glanced back, then quickly looked away. That's just how she is. She thinks if she argues with me, I'll always lower my head to her. I can't be bothered to care about her. Let's go, let's eat. Do you still remember this restaurant? We used to come here for milk tea after school in high school. I froze on the spot as if struck by lightning. What research? What night view? It was all just a trick he used to coax me. Clearly, everything was a memory he shared with Faye, and I was the interloper who had stumbled in. Faye waved her hand and smiled, and in a daze, I saw a shadow of someone on her. My shadow. To be precise, it should be that I have Faye's shadow on me. My height and build are similar to hers. Even the dimple on my face when I smile is so alike. I heard that she went to study in Canada after graduating from university, and that year I happened to meet Caleb. Caleb pursued me relentlessly from the start, and we got married after only dating for half a year. I knew he had a childhood friend studying abroad, but I never thought I would be that person's substitute. Inside the restaurant, Caleb was only focused on chatting and eating with Faye, while I floated at the entrance, watching quietly. He ordered a mango milkshake for Faye, and her face lit up with surprise. I remembered the cake Caleb made for me last year on my birthday, covered with a layer of mangoes. I remember you love mangoes, he said. At that time, I shook my head and told him that I was allergic to mangoes, which was checked during the premarital medical examination. Caleb looked a little embarrassed and scratched his head, saying he had remembered wrong, and I just smiled it off. Now I know there was someone else who loved mangoes. I touched my stomach, still in the 10th month of pregnancy. It's just that the little life inside had already been buried with me in that narrow trunk. Baby, I'm sorry, I murmured to myself, looking at Caleb who was toasting with Faye. Faye glanced at the ring on Caleb's ring finger and suddenly said, "Speaking of which, I haven't met your wife yet. When will you bring me to meet her?" Caleb paused, turning the ring a little unnaturally. What's so special about seeing her? 2 eyes, 1 nose and 1 mouth, just looks like a human. I floated in front of him, reaching out to pinch and rub his face, but unfortunately he couldn't feel it. But I think your wife must be a very nice person. You feel quite different to me. I looked at Faye in surprise. Was she actually speaking up for me? I saw her holding her face and looking at Caleb with a smile. You used to hate wearing any kind of jewelry. Even wearing a hat would make you complain for a long time, saying it felt stuffy. But from just now until now, you've touched your wedding ring at least 10 times. Faye pointed to Caleb's ring finger. You must love your wife very much. It's a subconscious reaction. Caleb loves me very much? I tilted my head and stared at Caleb. His eyes began to panic. No way. I'm just used to it, plus my finger is a little itchy. Faye laughed and urged him to call me. Caleb couldn't refuse her, so he took out his phone and dialed my number. I was startled and subconsciously wanted to grab the phone in my pocket, but grabbed empty air. Oh, I forgot that I was already dead. The phone vibrated in the trunk. Caleb had muted my ringtone before because he thought it was too noisy. After several unanswered calls, Caleb hung up. Just because I scolded her a few times, she has to be angry with me until now. He threw the phone on the table in annoyance. Faye put away her smile and looked out the window. You just told me that you locked your wife in the trunk. You were joking with me, right? It doesn't feel like there's anyone in the car. Caleb felt inexplicably panicked. He glanced at the several missed call records on his phone and adjusted his breathing. Maybe she opened the door and ran away by herself. Hey, what could happen? Caleb didn't know if he was comforting himself or what. He directly took off his ring, as if he couldn't bear to see it. Let's not talk about this. You only come back once in such a long time. Shall I take you around here? A lot has changed in the past 2 years. I stood next to the car, suddenly feeling something wet on the back of my hand. Was it raining? I looked up. It was still the same vast starry sky as before. I wiped my face again, and realized that tears were falling down like broken beads. So it wasn't the earth that was grieving, it was me crying. Because Caleb truly doesn't love me. He doesn't care if I exist, nor does he care about me and his baby. The two of them left the restaurant, passing the car, and headed straight for the hilltop. I hoped he would take one glance at the trunk, just one glance, and I could forgive everything he had done to me. But no, he completely forgot that there was a lonely me lying in the trunk. I couldn't help but want to curse him. Caleb, may you die a horrible death. But the words were already at my lips, and I swallowed them back down. Caleb is a heartless man, but I still hope he can be happy, even if it's not with me. I rubbed my sore nose, wiped away my tears, and continued shamelessly following behind them. They walked and talked about the past, unknowingly reaching the summit. The evening breeze blew, lifting Faye's skirt. Caleb thoughtfully took off his coat and draped it over her shoulders, his eyes gazing at the myriad lights in the distance. I wonder if he will suddenly remember at some point that among those myriad lights, there is also a lamp for me and him. Just then the phone rang abruptly. Caleb answered, and the expression on his face suddenly changed. Sophie sent you a distress message? How is that possible? Caleb cursed into the phone. I realized it must be the text message I sent to our family doctor, Owen, when Caleb first shoved me into the trunk. I didn't expect it to have been successfully sent until now. Sophie is in my car, how could there be any danger? She's so grown up, it's not like I have to keep watching her all the time. It's not like she's missing arms or legs. Caleb seemed to suddenly wake up, and the phone fell to the ground. I smiled sadly. Caleb's face was pale, and he picked up the phone and frantically ran towards the foot of the mountain. Brother Caleb, what's wrong? What happened? Faye was startled by his sudden action, completely caught off guard, and could only follow him. Caleb ran while constantly redialing my number, but all that awaited him was no answer, again and again. Sophie, answer the phone. Don't scare me, nothing will happen, nothing will happen. He ran and muttered to himself, his knuckles gripping the phone already white from the force. But how could nothing happen? I clearly told him a long time ago that I was about to die, and he heard it. He gave up the chance for me to live, so why is he deceiving himself now? Finally, Caleb ran to the car, holding onto the car body, panting heavily. He stared at the trunk for a long time without moving, and I floated in front of him to watch him. I didn't expect him to be trembling. He took out the car key, and with trembling hands, he tried to press the unlock button, but he failed again and again. Finally, with 2 clicks, the lock finally opened. I stared at him walking to the trunk and reaching out to open it, and a strange feeling rose in my heart. I suddenly covered his eyes, not wanting him to see my tragic death. But my hand passed through his face, and as the trunk door opened, I covered my mouth and let out a silent scream. My corpse lay across the middle of the trunk, a muddy mess beneath me, amniotic fluid and blood mixing and flowing throughout the space. My arms were covered in scars, obviously because of unbearable pain. I had scratched myself raw with my fingernails. With a thump, I heard Caleb fall to the ground. I turned around and only saw Caleb's eyes wide open, sitting on the ground, mouth open, trembling, but unable to make any sound. His whole body was shaking violently, his eyes fixed on the lifeless me in the car. No. Sophie. Sophie. He stumbled to his feet and fell back again. Sophie, Sophie, I beg you, don't scare me, don't scare me. My gray face, empty eyes, and hands tightly protecting my abdomen, all became the most fatal blades piercing Caleb's heart. 2 hours ago, I said my water broke, and he locked me in the trunk for Faye. I said I was dying, begging him to take me to the hospital, and he said I was faking it. Every disregarded cry for help now amplified, tormented him. A heartbreaking roar tore through the sky. Caleb's knees buckled, and he collapsed heavily to the ground, clutching his head in despair. Suddenly he lurched to the side, violently retching. Faye arrived beside the car just then. She saw the horrifying scene inside at a glance, and covered her mouth in terror to stifle a scream. She grabbed Caleb by the arm, trying to pull him up. But Caleb remained kneeling, banging his forehead against the ground repeatedly until it was covered in blood. Caleb, get up. What's the point of doing this? She's already dead. Faye pushed him hard, glaring at him. The push seemed to bring Caleb back to his senses a little. He looked at Faye with glazed eyes. Sophie, where's Sophie? She's pregnant with my baby. I have to find her. He scrambled to his feet, threw himself beside my corpse, and wept with heart-rending sobs, embracing me. Call an ambulance. Quick, call an ambulance. He held me tight, pushing Faye while roaring at her to call for help. Faye stood silently, her face filled with grief. She had studied medicine abroad, and could tell at a glance that I was long gone. But to stabilize Caleb's emotions, she still called an ambulance. Held in Caleb's arms, I wished time would stop forever at this moment, so the 3 of us could always be together. He gently placed his hand on my stomach, stroking it again and again. Sophie, are you still angry with me? Sophie, this game isn't fun. Get up, and I'll take you to see the stars, okay? Sophie, I miss you and the baby, I beg you. Caleb's eyes reddened again, and he held me even tighter, hot tears constantly falling on my face. Caleb, calm down. You can't change anything by acting like this. Faye placed her hand on Caleb's shoulder, sighing silently. Sophie must still be mad at me, I know it. I know what I have to do to make her stop being angry, and then she'll come back to me. Caleb suddenly put me down and, without any warning, rushed towards the road. Caleb. Faye was terrified, watching helplessly as a large truck narrowly missed Caleb. She immediately rushed forward and pulled Caleb back. Every time I get hurt, she softens and forgives me for everything. Let go of me. Why won't you let me go find Sophie? Caleb still tried to break free, and Faye slapped him twice across the face. Caleb, don't be crazy. Caleb's wavering mental defenses finally shattered completely. He squatted down, clutching his head, and sobbed uncontrollably. I killed Sophie. I killed her and our baby. I'm a beast. What have I done? I don't deserve to live. He frantically beat his head and slapped his face. Watching him like this, my heart ached as if it were being torn apart. Soon the ambulance arrived, along with my family doctor, Owen. When he saw my body being carried out of the trunk on a stretcher, Owen's face instantly lost all color. He rushed over and punched Caleb hard, blood splattering everywhere. Faye tried to stop him, but it was no use. Caleb, you scum! What did Sophie do to deserve this? Are you even human? She was pregnant with your child. Caleb let Owen straddle him, his fists raining down on his face. He was like a lifeless puppet, staring blankly at my body covered with a white sheet. He reached out, wanting to touch my body, but recoiled as soon as his fingers brushed the white sheet. Kill me. Then I can go be with Sophie. It's all my fault, all my fault. If I had taken her to the hospital then, would she have survived? Yes. It's all your fault. Sophie's water broke, but you refused to take her to the hospital and locked her in the trunk. Goo, are you even a human being? Owen's words crashed down on Caleb's heart without mercy, suffocating him. Sophie's health was already poor, and she finally got pregnant. Do you know how much effort she put into keeping this baby? She was drinking Chinese medicine every day, so bitter and smelly. Didn't you know she hated bitter things the most? But she never complained, not once, because she wanted to give you a healthy baby. Hearing Owen's words, I was reminded of that most difficult time during my pregnancy. I knew my body was weak, and I could only rely on postnatal herbal remedies to strengthen myself. Caleb really wanted a child, and I didn't want him to be disappointed. But in the end, it was Caleb who personally killed this hard-won child. Caleb was crying even harder, his body covered in blood, looking utterly devastated. Owen had also gradually calmed down. He looked at Caleb, and in the end he couldn't bear it and closed his eyes, sighing towards the sky. On the way to the hospital, Faye was driving Caleb. Caleb sat in the back seat, like a lifeless walking corpse, constantly muttering my name. Faye sighed, looked at him in the rearview mirror, and said, Caleb, I've asked you many times. Faye didn't finish her sentence, but I knew she was referring to the incident of me being locked in the trunk. I thought she wasn't seriously hurt. I was going to take her to the hospital after picking you up, but I forgot. I forgot about her and the baby. I forgot that she was afraid of pain and the dark. She kept begging me at the time, but all I could think about was teaching her a lesson. How could I not have thought that she was a pregnant woman at her due date? As Caleb spoke, his voice became more and more desperate. Faye didn't say anything. The pressure in the car was getting lower and lower, ready to shatter at any moment. After a long time, Faye finally couldn't help it. She slammed on the brakes, and Caleb hit the front seat directly. He looked at the driver's seat in confusion. Faye's hands on the steering wheel were trembling. Caleb, I am also responsible for the passing of your wife. If I had broken off my relationship with you earlier, and not given you unrealistic fantasies, perhaps none of this would have happened. Faye lowered her head and said, choking with sobs, It's too late to say all this now. You owe your wife too much, and you can only repay her with your life. But I don't think she would want to see this. Can you be a man, stand up, and atone for your sins? Caleb instinctively reached for his ring finger, but he touched empty air. Like a child who had lost his treasure, he frantically searched his body, finally finding the wedding ring he had taken off in his pocket. He held the ring, trembling as he put it back on his ring finger, and looked up helplessly. How can I atone for my sins? Faye frowned and sighed. Let's go to the hospital first. You still have to take care of your wife's funeral arrangements. The doctor first announced my death. Although it was a fact that he already knew, Caleb still collapsed to the ground, unable to accept it. Then came the police questioning. Was it you who locked your wife, the deceased Sophie, in the trunk? And you never opened it to check on her? Caleb just nodded mechanically, weakly propping himself up with his arm to cover his face. It was all my fault. I killed Sophie and the baby. I thought she was angry with me, so I locked her in the trunk to teach her a lesson. She begged me for help, but I ignored her. I personally killed my wife and child. Caleb couldn't continue speaking. He was even crying so hard that he was almost out of tears. He remembered that this morning, he and I were still holding hands and walking, saying that when the baby was born, we would give him a good, easy-to-raise nickname. And the crib and rocking car at home. Those were all prepared for the baby by him. I had also made new clothes for the baby, one for a boy and one for a girl, but there was no chance to wear them. He said that he saw I had sent a distress message to Owen. How desperate and painful I must have been at that time. Everyone present fell into a long silence listening to him. What should have been such a happy family was destroyed by Caleb's own hands. At this time, the forensic doctor came out after a preliminary examination and told the police. She died about 3 hours ago. Judging from the environment inside the car and the deceased's condition, the deceased must have had a strong desire to survive, but unfortunately, 3 hours ago, which was when we had just arrived at the airport, Caleb suddenly felt dizzy and fell backward. I remembered that I had already started bleeding heavily at that time, and the baby in my belly must have suffocated due to lack of oxygen. I didn't even have a last chance to ask for help, because Caleb came back to get the flowers and locked the door. I couldn't escape even if I wanted to. Before I died, I even fantasized that Caleb would take me to the hospital after picking up Faye. Caleb was so traumatized that he completely fainted, and the police had to call someone to send him to the emergency room. Faye and Owen took over the responsibility of handling the aftermath. I followed beside them, listening to their conversations with the police and the subsequent arrangements for my body. After the police left, Faye went to the morgue alone, gently lifting the white sheet covering me. She looked at my pale, ashen face and closed her eyes. Sophie, is it? If I had known beforehand that Caleb was killed picking me up, I would have flown back to Canada to stop him from coming. Faye looked at my face with heartache, and suddenly a tear fell. Caleb and I have known each other since we were kids. He might have liked me, but I lost contact with him after I went abroad. I knew his feelings, and I wanted to deliberately keep my distance, hoping he would understand my intentions. This time when I came back to China, I thought he had let go, so I wanted to meet him, but I didn't expect it to turn out like this. Sister-in-law, I'm sorry, Faye said, squatting down and sobbing in anguish. Suddenly, the door opened and Caleb rushed in. His face was pale, and Owen behind him couldn't stop him. What are you doing here? Get out. Caleb, you. Get out. Caleb forcibly pushed Faye out of the morgue without explanation, slamming the door shut behind her. The white sheet on my face had been lifted, and even I thought my face was frighteningly pale. Sophie. I floated behind him and answered. But he couldn't hear me, everything was so quiet, so cruelly quiet. Are you cold? He took off his coat and clumsily put it on me, especially carefully wrapping it around my once swollen abdomen. He tried to smile at me, but after trying for a long time, he could only manage a strange angle. I forgot that you're afraid of the cold and the dark. I'll never leave you again, never again. The trunk was so dark, so stuffy. Caleb's voice suddenly began to tremble, with a sob. I clearly heard you calling me, but how could I do that? How could I doubt you were pretending? He beat his head, again and again. Suddenly, he laughed hysterically again. We haven't decided on a name for the baby yet, have we? You always pick and choose, saying this one is bad, that one is vulgar. Now get up and choose. Get up. He shook my shoulders, the body cold and stiff, swaying weakly with his movements. This lifeless response completely drained Caleb of all his strength. He slumped down, pressing his forehead against my forehead and sobbing. Sophie, I was wrong, I was just angry for a moment, I didn't think. He explained incoherently, raised his head, and his eyes began to lose focus. It seems to be snowing outside. Let's go home, okay? I'll make you some ginger tea, you drink a sip, just one sip. This time I definitely won't put so much ginger you don't like it. He bent down and carefully held me in his arms. The scalding temperature of his body touched my cold body, making Caleb tremble all over. There was no more response. His world had been completely shattered in the trunk he had closed with his own hands. Caleb's life fell apart. Time seemed to lose its meaning, and the boundaries between day and night blurred in Caleb's world. He stayed at home every day, like a walking corpse. Sometimes he would suddenly jump out of bed, rush out of the room barefoot, shouting, "Sophie, I'm coming." Sometimes he would watch TV, suddenly saying to the empty sofa next to him, "Why are you coughing again? Do you have a cold? I'll make you some tea to drink." Caleb put my toothbrush and towel back in their original places. After brushing his teeth every day, he would rinse my toiletries with water, as if I had used them too. He even swept up a few strands of my hair from under the bed, and carefully wrapped them around my comb. He started using my shampoo to shower. That familiar scent enveloped him, as if I had never left. Faye often came to see him, but he basically chased her away every time. The last time, she blocked the door and forcefully squeezed through a crack to get inside. But upon entering the house, she was shocked by the devastation. Empty beer bottles and cigarette butts littered the floor. Caleb himself was a wreck, barely human. Faye's eyes turned red, looking at the once high-spirited man reduced to this state. She wanted to scold him but couldn't bring herself to. I know it's useless to advise you now. The dead can't be brought back to life. Sophie also wants you to live well. I won't say much else. I'm going back to Canada tomorrow. Take care of yourself. Caleb glanced at her, then suddenly held up a finger and said softly, "Sophie's sleeping, don't wake her." Seeing him like this, Faye felt nothing but pity and could only shake her head and leave. Caleb's life had completely collapsed. He lost his job, and his savings were dwindling rapidly. I floated beside him, unable to describe what I felt. Hate. It didn't seem like I hated him that much. Pity. But I also felt like he deserved it. The days passed until the arrival of the official notice from the police. Caleb was charged with illegal detention resulting in death, and an arrest warrant was about to be issued. He nonchalantly continued to pick up food with his chopsticks and placed it in the empty bowl opposite him. The shop downstairs was closed today. I couldn't get your favorite scallion pancakes, so I got red bean cakes instead. Try them. After saying that, he suddenly froze and then fell into a long silence until the food turned cold. In the afternoon, there was a light rain. Caleb drove to the cemetery. He brought a bouquet of red roses, much more vibrant than the bouquet of white roses he had given Faye that day. He sat in front of my grave and gently wiped my photo on the tombstone with a towel. "Wife, I brought flowers. White is unlucky, so I bought you red ones. Do you like them?" "Wife, are you cold? But it's almost spring, it should be warming up soon." "Wife, don't be afraid. I'll be joining you soon." Caleb stood up, reluctantly touched my photo one last time, and turned to leave. I remained at my grave, watching Caleb walk away. When he returned, he locked himself in the room for a whole day and night. No lights, no sound. The next day, the police broke down the door and found him lying peacefully in bed, dressed neatly, as if asleep. Beside him was my pillow, and one of his hands was gently placed on it, as if he was holding me in his arms to sleep. His body was already cold. On the bedside table was an empty bottle of sleeping pills, next to a scribbled suicide note. The suicide note contained only a few short lines. "Sophie, baby, I'm sorry to you both. I hope I don't go to hell. I want to find you. Let me be with you this time." Caleb chose the most decisive way to atone for his sins to me. He returned to that trunk, and completed a perfect reunion. Flower petals floated in through the window, landing at Caleb's feet. I felt my soul rising as well. Spring had truly arrived.